Hey everyone, and welcome back for another deep dive.
Uh,
Today we're heading out west
Out west.
to sunny California, where some pretty incredible things are happening to support Native American communities.
Yeah.
And you guys, you're not going to believe this, but California is marking 100 years since Native Americans gained the right to vote in the state.
Wow.
We've got some fascinating news articles here digging into not just this historical milestone,
Right.
but also a whole wave of recent actions that are really making a difference.
100 years.
Yeah.
That's quite a while.
It is.
It makes you think about all the
And things they went through.
all the things, all the things that had to happen for them to get to that point.
Exactly.
It's kind of a bittersweet thing to celebrate because it's great that they have that right now.
Right.
But it also brings to light all the struggles they faced for such a long time.
So true.
Imagine fighting for your right to vote for a century.
I can't even
It's
imagine.
a testament to their resilience and their determination. And it really makes these recent actions by the state even more meaningful.
Yeah, you're right.
It's like California's finally acknowledging its past and taking steps to right those wrongs.
It really seems like it.
So yeah, this is a big deal.
It is a really big deal. And I think it's important for us to understand the historical context here.
Absolutely.
What kind of injustices did Native Americans face in California?
Well, we're talking about things like forced assimilation.
Like being forced to abandon their own cultures.
Exactly. Forced to abandon their languages, their traditions, their entire way of life.
That's awful.
It was a terrible time. And then you have the issue of land seizure. Their ancestral lands were taken away from them.
Their homes.
Their homes, exactly.
Yeah.
And to make matters worse, their cultures were actively suppressed.
Like they weren't even allowed to practice their own tradition.
Exactly. They
Yeah.
were forbidden from speaking their languages, practicing their religions, all of it.
It's heartbreaking. It's like trying to erase an entire people.
That's exactly what it was, an attempt to erase their identity, their history, their very existence.
And now, 100 years later, we're celebrating their right to vote.
It's a long road.
It is a long road. And you know what's so inspiring is that they never gave up fighting for their rights.
Never gave up. That's the amazing thing about this story. It's a story of resilience, of hope, of the human spirit's ability to overcome even the most incredible adversity.
And now it seems like California is finally starting to listen.
They are. And it's not just about listening anymore. It's about taking action.
That's what I'm excited about. I hear that Governor Newsom has been signing proclamations and legislation left and right to support Native American communities.
He has. He's been busy.
Tell me everything.
Well, first of all, he signed a proclamation for Native American Day, which is a powerful statement in itself.
Right, like officially recognizing the day.
Exactly. It's about acknowledging the importance of Native American history and culture.
So it's not just a holiday, it's a statement.
Precisely. But he didn't stop there. He also approved a whole package of bills designed to support tribal communities in some really concrete ways.
This is amazing. So tell me about these bills. What are some of the key things they're addressing?
Well, one major focus is on protecting Native American youth. These bills aim to strengthen existing laws and create new ones to ensure their safety and well-being.
It's great that they're prioritizing the younger generation.
They are. And there's also a big push to improve access to vital social services, things that many of us might take for granted, but have historically been difficult for tribal communities to access.
What kind of services are we talking about?
Things like healthcare education, housing, job training, you name it. These are essential services that everyone should have access to.
Absolutely. And I imagine that historical injustices have created significant barriers for Native American communities trying to access these services.
Exactly. That's what these bills are trying to address. They're trying to break down those systemic barriers that have existed for far too long.
It's about time.
It is. It's long overdue.
So we've got bills addressing use protection, access to social services.
What else? Another critical issue these bills tackle is the missing and murdered Indigenous people crisis, often referred to as MMIP.
I've heard a little bit about this, but can you explain it?
Sure. It's a nationwide tragedy where Indigenous people, particularly women and girls, go missing or are murdered at a much higher rate than other populations.
It's horrible.
It is. And it's often underreported and underinvestigated.
So these bills are trying to bring more attention to this crisis.
Yes, they're trying to improve data collection, increase law enforcement training, and provide more resources to support families and communities affected by this crisis.
It sounds like these bills are long overdue.
They are. And it's a testament to the advocacy and activism of indigenous communities that these issues are finally being addressed.
Well, let's get into the specifics of some of these bills.
Yeah.
What are some of the most significant pieces of legislation in this package?
Two that really stand out are AB 2695 and AB 2795.
Okay, tell me about those.
Let's start with AB 2695. This one is all about getting a clearer picture of the violence happening on tribal lands, which, as I mentioned, is often underreported and underinvestigated.
So it's about gathering better data.
Exactly. This bill aims to improve data collection so that we can better understand the MMIP crisis and develop more effective strategies to combat it.
Okay, so it's about shedding light on a problem that's been hidden in the shadows for too long.
Exactly. And hopefully by understanding the problem better, we can start to find real solutions.
Makes sense. What about AB 2795? What does that one focus on?
AB 2795 focuses on a different but equally important issue, access to substance abuse and mental health treatment for tribal communities.
That's crucial.
It is. And this bill recognizes that there are already programs like CalWORKS and TAN Temporary Assistance for Needy Families that offer these resources.
Right, so the resources are there in theory.
Exactly. But navigating the system has been incredibly challenging for tribal clinics.
I see. So it's about making sure those resources are actually accessible.
Exactly. AB 2795 aims to streamline the process, cut through the red tape, and ensure that these essential funds reach those who need them most.
This is huge. It's one thing to have programs in place, but it's another to ensure they're actually accessible to the communities they're designed to serve.
Couldn't agree more. It's about making sure that these programs are actually making a difference in people's lives.
Okay, so we've got bills addressing youth protection, access to social services, and the MMIP crisis.
Yeah.
What else is California doing to support its Native American communities?
Well, they're also tackling something really important, education.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
Yeah, Governor Newsom signed a bill requiring that public schools teach about the impact of the Spanish Mission and Gold Rush eras on Native Americans.
Wow. That's something I never really learned much about in school.
Right. It's like those periods of history are always taught, but the Native American perspective is often missing.
Exactly. It's like we're only getting half the story.
Exactly. And it's such an important part of history to understand, especially in a state like California.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So why is this bill such a big deal?
Well, for starters, it ensures that history is taught accurately and sensitively.
Okay, so it's about finally telling the whole story.
Yes. And it's about giving Native American voices the platform they deserve.
It's about time.
It is. It's long overdue. But it's also about so much more than just teaching facts.
What do you mean?
It's about fostering empathy and understanding in the next generation.
So that they can learn from the mistakes of the past.
Exactly. And hopefully create a better future because of it.
That makes a lot of sense. And, it's interesting that you bring up the idea of learning from the past because it makes me think about that Native American Day celebration we talked about earlier.
Oh, yeah.
Didn't you say it's evolved over the years?
It has. It's actually been around for a while. This year marks its 85th anniversary.
Wow, 85 years. That's amazing.
It is, and it's come a long way from its beginnings as Indian Day back in 1939.
Indian Day.
Yeah, that was the original name. But over time, it became California Indian Day, and eventually in 2015 officially became Native American Day.
Wow, so it's gone through quite a transformation.
It has, reflecting the evolving understanding and respect for Native American communities.
And this year's celebration must have been particularly meaningful, with it coinciding with the 100th anniversary of Native Americans gaining citizenship and voting rights in California.
It was a really powerful moment. There was a real sense of hope and progress in the air.
It sounds like California is really making strides in supporting its Native American community.
They are, and it's not just about righting past wrongs, it's about building a better future together.
I love that. And it sounds like there's a lot of momentum building behind this movement.
There is, and that's what gives me hope for the future.
It's fantastic to see California really stepping up and taking responsibility for its past.
It is.
But it also makes me think, like, what can we as individuals actually do?
That's such a great question.
Because it feels like such a huge thing, right?
It is. Like, how do we even begin to address these historical injustices?
Well, I think the first step is education, right?
Okay.
Like you said, we need to learn about the history and the culture of Native American tribes.
Yeah.
And not just in the past, but also in the present day.
Makes sense.
Like, what are their lives like today?
Right.
What challenges are they facing?
And how can we be allies and advocates for them?
Right. Exactly.
Okay, so education is key.
Absolutely. It's the foundation for everything else.
What else can we do beyond education?
Well, once we start to learn more about these communities, we can start to support them in tangible ways.
Okay, so how can we do that?
Well, there are so many ways, support tribal artists and businesses,
Okay.
attend local events, learn about their traditions,
Right.
and most importantly, listen to their stories.
Because their voices are the most important ones in this conversation.
Exactly. They are the experts on their own experiences.
So it's about amplifying their voices, not speaking for them. Exactly. And, something as simple as having a conversation with someone who has a different perspective than you can be so powerful.
I agree. It's about bridging those divides and building understanding.
Precisely. And, it's not always going to be easy.
Right. I can imagine there might be some uncomfortable conversations along the way.
There might be. But that's okay. It's all part of the process.
Yeah.
The important thing is that we approach these conversations with respect and an open mind.
Absolutely. And a willingness to listen and learn.
Exactly.
This has been such an eye-opening conversation.
I has.
I feel like I've learned so much,
Me too.
and I hope our listeners feel the same way.
I hope so too. It's so important to keep these conversations going.
It really is. So as we wrap up today's deep dive, is there one final thought you want to leave our listeners with?
Yeah, I think the most important thing to remember is that reconciliation is a journey, not a destination.
I love that.
It's an ongoing process that requires all of us to do the work.
To educate ourselves, to listen to others, to take action in our own communities.
Exactly. Every little bit counts.
Well said. That's all the time we have for today's deep dive. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me. It was a pleasure being here.
And thank you to our listeners for tuning in. We'll see you next time for another fascinating deep dive.